Suspend your disbelief, your rational, analytic mind, just for a minute, just for the length of this podcast. What if all I am about to tell you is the truth? What if the information you will be provided is from a divine source? Just for this time, I am your Axis Mundi. Consider this podcast your channel, your second opinion. When I do a reading, something larger than myself is working through me. So ask what you wish. This is your channel, your doorway to the divine. Well, welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from Germany.
Achtung, ich rufe noch einmal Stalingrad.
Hier ist Stalingrad. Hier ist die Front an der Wolga.
Welcome to you from the United Kingdom.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
Welcome to you from Japan.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And from the United States, California.
Try to relax. This will feel a little weird.
Alabama.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Illinois.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Who else we got here? Illinois and Florida.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Well, welcome to you all to John's Tarot. With this new podcast service, I'm with Podbeam. They don't tell me what cities you're in. So if you would like me to mention your city on the podcast, send me a little email, send me a note. Just mention your city. You don't have to mention anything else about you. I'll never send you any junk mail. I'm a really small podcaster, and I'm not interested in offending any of my listeners. So just go ahead, send me a little email, and I will... I'll mention your city. That's all. I was really surprised that I've gotten that many listeners from such short. I changed my podcast. I shut the old John's Tarot down because I was concerned. I had social concerns after the election. You know, I really don't want to be. Some of the followers of that one particular party can be a little radical, and I'm concerned for the safety of my family. And I had some political things up there. And I told you, as I move forward with the new podcast, I'm not going to do anything, nothing political. Okay, I'm just going to stay away from that entirely. But what I will talk about is how to survive the next 4 years. That is the most important thing. We all know what to expect as far as the things that are coming. And actually, nothing's coming yet, just nothing but a bunch of fear-mongering from all the different sources. Let's just see how this plays out. But, I'm going to lay low. I'm not going to get involved in politics. I am going to talk about how to survive politics. In my last podcast, I talked about I survived his last 4 years in the worst kind of way, working on the ICU in the middle of a raging pandemic, was the people dying all about me so bad that we were filling up, the body bags were going into Ryder refrigerator trucks behind the hospital. So I'm going to survive. You are going to survive. We're just going to keep a low profile, and hopefully things improve, and we'll see what happens. So today I'm going to talk. Today I have an interview. I have a couple of interviews actually coming up. I'm so surprised by that. And my interviews coming up are one of my interviews is going to be from Andy Grant. He'll be coming up next week, and then after that I have another interview coming up with the deputy director of MUFON for Nebraska, and Fred Zawi. I don't know the exact pronunciation of his name. So I got a couple of good interviews coming up. Spirit is directing that. I don't know how these are coming up. If you would like to be interviewed on John's Tarot, send me an email, send me a note to john@johnstarot.net, and we'll set you up for an interview. But my big interview for today will be with Santa Claus. That's coming up real quick. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the drone situation in New Jersey. So those are what's coming up. For right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is tarot. Now, what is tarot cards? What is tarot reading? So that you have an understanding of what it is I do. There is a bit of, I do have a bit of ability, put it that way. You could call it psychic ability. You could call it whatever you like. There's always been people in our society who've had this ability. It's a God-given ability. And, back in the Stone Age, you had to have somebody to say when the caribou were going to come by, when the hunting was going to be good, to be able to look at the four seasons, to be able to look at plantings, to be able to be an intermediary between this world and the next. There's always been people like me in our society. It's just that today, in today's society, we say, oh, there's no such thing. I don't believe it. I didn't believe it at first either, but it is what it is. I'm going to talk a little bit about what is tarot. Why does tarot work? And it's not really, my explanations are not really psychic, although there's an element to that. I'm going to talk about how it works. So for one thing, in tarot, everything that happens in the world doesn't happen by accident. You're not listening to this podcast by accident. These people are not contact me and able to do interviews by accident. You're not going to listen to the interviews by accident. Everything has to do with cause and effect. Sometimes we don't see the effects from the causes we make until later on, but they exist. And a cause and effect is apparent in almost everything we do. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to say in everything we do. In the larger, the global sense, if you have negative actions, you're going to get negative effects. If you commit a crime, you can expect to get arrested. If you hurt someone, you could, with intent, you can expect negative things to happen in your life. So cause and effect, it just happens. As far as tarot goes and cause and effect, we shuffle the cards. The client comes to me, and I shuffle the cards. He asks the question. I put the deck in front of him. I usually have them cut it into 3 piles, and we do a reading. And we are engaging cause and effect from the universe by doing that. So we're engaging cause and effect. Remember, nothing happens in the universe by accident. That's one of the Hermetic principles. Secondly, there's something called synchronicity involved in tarot. Have you ever had a synchronistic event? I'll explain a couple synchronistic events I've had. Usually a synchronistic event is when 2 or 3 events happen in a short period of time that have meaning to you, that have meaning to the individual. My synchronistic events, and I've had a number of them. I'll explain one that I was looking for a job, a second job. I do an ICU job, but this was years ago. I was looking for a second job. And the woman who was interviewing me for the second job, for one thing, I wasn't going to even interview for the job. I wasn't even looking for a job. Somebody found me in a sporting goods store and said, hey, you looking for some extra money? And I said, what do you mean? And they told me how much money. And I go, well, yeah, I'm interested in that. That was synchronistic. The second job, the woman who was interviewing me, it was on a chemical dependency unit here in Southern California. And the woman who was interviewing me was somebody who knew me. I had worked for her before in a prior job. So she knew me. She knew who I was. She knew my capabilities. And then one of the therapists who used to work at that other job, it was at a psychiatric hospital, this job, before I was a nurse. One of the therapists come by her and she says, oh, John, John, and gives me a great reference right there on the spot. And then one of my nursing instructor from my clinical came by and she popped her head in. Oh yeah, John's a great guy. All those things happened in that short period of time. That was a synchronicity. That was a synchronistic event. That was the universe talking to me like, hey, we want you to do this for a while. So, okay, I get it. I'm not totally deaf. So I went ahead and I did that for a while. I currently don't work in the chemical dependency department. It's just too tiring for me, and I'll go into that at another time. But those are synchronistic events. I don't know if you've had synchronistic events. If so, you can drop me a note and tell me what kind of events you've had. Secondly, what we have going on is these are all coming from Carl Jung, archetypes. Archetypes are things that exist throughout all cultures and throughout all times. Carl Jung talked about archetypes, and Joseph Campbell talked about archetypes. To explain a few archetypes, we have archetypes, the hero, the hero story, the hero's journey, the maiden, the successful conclusion to the hero's journey, that when he wins beyond all odds, the villain, the challenge. These things are all archetypes. When you take a look at the tarot deck, these things are all archetypes that exist within each individual, within each of us. So when I do a tarot reading, what I'm doing then is I am forcing the universe into a synchronistic event. And then if I'm doing a reading for you, I am engaging these archetypes, which exist inside of all human beings. And that's why I have hits with these archetypes. Bang, like, well, how did you know that? It's because I am activating the archetypes within each individual. So synchronistic events, archetypes, cause and effect. And then there's also something called conceptual blending. Conceptual blending is a technique used by many people who help guide businesses. You're taking something that's totally unassociated, ideas that are totally unassociated, but applying these concepts to the business, to the question at hand. So that is called conceptual blending. I'm taking something from outside the normal paradigm and applying it to the question at hand, to the problem at hand. And that is called conceptual blending. And that is also involved in tarot reading. So that's a little bit on how tarot reading works. We take cause and effect. I shuffle the cards and I force the universe into a cause and effect situation. And then I force the universe into a synchronistic event. We draw the cards. And then we activate archetypes, universal archetypes. And then we also employ conceptual blending. So we're taking something that from outside your normal point of view, your normal thought pattern, and putting it right into the question at hand. Now, if you would like a reading or something, contact me and we'll work something out. I'll do a free 3-card reading for anybody if you send me a little email. I'll throw a couple of cards for you and do a 3-card reading. If you require something with more extensive, we'll work something out. We can do it online, and I could spend some time with you, and we can get some solutions to your problems. The tarot has been very interesting. I remember one time I asked the old JohnsTarot about some of the answers it comes up with. I asked about gun violence, and it came up with some great ideas. I forget what it was. I asked about gun violence, and it suggested that that we are in a cycle of violence. As a society, and you, my past listeners know I've talked about this, as a society, as a culture, we in this country are in a cycle of violence. A cycle of violence is like when you have you're in an abusive relationship and your boyfriend's beating you up, your husband's beating you up. Maybe it's the wife is doing the violence. So it has a documented cycle of violence where you have the event, you have the violent event, you have the cool down period, you have the remorse period, the things are quiet, the tensions rise again, and then you have another event. And that's called a cycle of violence. If you look at our gun violence situation, that's what we are in as a culture, is a cycle of violence. Now, I'm familiar with those things, but I would not have been able to see that without the tarot pointing that out. So that's one of the examples of a unique answer to a problem. And I talked more about that. If you want me to talk about that sometime, we could do some more readings on that and talk about that. And it came up with some solutions. How do we resolve this cycle of violence? Our incumbent President Trump was a victim not so much of political assassination as he was just caught up in that cycle of violence. Unfortunately, and I don't believe in violence for for any purposes to solve any problems. But he was caught up in that cycle of violence. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to move on to my interview for today. Yay, interview. I have an interview with Santa Claus. Santa Claus was kind enough to give me a few minutes of his time. It was about a 5-minute interview. And he gave me a little interview, and I want to share that with you today. It's a very busy time of year for Santa, but he was kind enough to take some time out of his busy schedule to give us an interview for JohnsTarot. So let's take a look at my interview with Santa Claus. Okay, this is our interview with Santa Claus, brought to you all the way from the North Pole. This is a very busy time of year for Santa Claus, and I appreciate him giving us a little time. How you doing today, Santa? Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, everyone! Ho, ho! And Merry Christmas to you too, John! Hey, you elves! I told you not to put them candy cans there! You leave the reindeer alone! Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Yeah, it's a busy time of year for me, John. We're very busy, but I always make time to talk to John and listen to what they have to say on JohnsTarot. I understand you got some questions for me. Well, we really appreciate you giving us this time. I notice how busy you are. I was wondering now if you could answer a few questions for me I wrote down. Do you think that would be all right? First question, what is the most difficult part for you on Christmas Eve? What's the most difficult part of your job on Christmas Eve? What is the most difficult part of my job on Christmas Eve? Well, I'll tell you the truth. Christmas Eve is my favorite time of the year. But right now, the most difficult time is flying into New Jersey. I got a bunch of drones in the way. That's a very difficult obstacle for me. Now, I know all the little boys and girls write in with their Christmas wishes for you, Santa. I just want to know, what did Donald Trump send you in his Christmas message? What does Donald Trump want for Christmas? John, I got to tell you, that's classified information. But let me just tell you this. I think he's already gotten what he wants for Christmas. And we'll just leave it at that. Santa doesn't get into politics, so we're staying as far away from that as possible. Okay, Santa, I have another question for you. Why do we not always get everything we want on Christmas Day? Sometimes we're a little disappointed. What's going on with that? And what do we need to do to be happy? Why do we not get everything we want for Christmas? Well, John, you know, that's a very difficult question. Very difficult for Santa to answer. But let me just tell you this. It's impossible for you to get everything you want for Christmas. And it's a matter of happiness. It's not getting everything you wanted. It's wanting everything you have. And that is happiness. Well, how about this one? This is one that's always bothered me. How exactly do the reindeers fly? I can never figure that one out. How do reindeer fly? Well, that's easy. By magic. Reindeer have a natural-born affinity for flying. But when we fly through California, they tend to fly a little bit too high, if you know what I mean. Ho, 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 ho. Well, you know, Santa, right now we have a very contentious society and a very contentious culture. And sometimes when I go online and I look around, I see that some people just aren't happy. Even if they won an election, they're not happy. I see them come online and they're angry, and they come on and say, we want to see the Dems cry. We want to see tears. What's going on with this type of behavior? I know, John, that in your current society, you have a lot of people that, well, let's just say they're not happy. And I know that you see them on the internet, they're real angry, even though they won. They're still angry. I just want you to know this. Angry people are not happy people, and happy people are not angry. Ho, 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 ho. That's Santa's opinion. Okay, well, thanks a lot for the interview, Santa. be careful out there, especially flying through California, especially flying through New Jersey. Don't run into a drone. And I hope to see you on Christmas Eve. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the interview. And have a great time. All right. Merry Christmas to you, Santa. Bye-bye. Bye, all. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas from Santa Claus and JohnsTarot. Merry Christmas. Rudolph, get ready. We're going for a ride. Oh, there's my interview with Santa Claus. This is my period of my part of the program where I'm available for free readings. If you would like a free reading, go ahead and let me know. I am working on a process, and I haven't quite got it figured out. If somebody out there has got it figured out where I can do a lot. This isn't live on podcast on Podbeam, but I want to be able to do a live podcast on Podbeam and be open for readings for people on Podbeam. I haven't quite got that worked out. I'm working on it, but I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. I just don't happen to be there right yet. Now, be patient with me. If you know how to do that, contact me and let me know. And so I can set that up so we can do some live readings on Podbeam. We have it set up right now. I'm doing open for live readings on Twitch. And I'm on Twitch every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, and we're going to ask some questions about the, I have my papers there in front of me. I'm going to talk a little bit about the drones in New Jersey. This has been a very perplexing problem. There's been these drones, but if you haven't heard about it, it's all over the internet. These drones have been flying over New Jersey from like 5 in the evening to 11 at night. There's been a history of this same thing. They flew over Langley Air Force Base, and then they had the same situation over Colorado a few years ago. And questions were asked and not answered. And questions are currently being asked and not answered. And the big concern is, they had a big hearing the other day, and where they had the FBI there who's been investigating, and they don't know. We don't know who's flying them. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where they're going. They had the people there from the Pentagon. The Pentagon says, we don't know. We don't know who's flying them. We don't know. What if these things are from Russia? What if these things are from our adversaries? What if Putin is flying? He wants to let us know who's really in charge after all the trouble he's had in Ukraine, that he could fly drones over New Jersey with impunity. Well, and the Pentagon, it says, well, we don't know. They're not from foreign entities, but they won't tell us who they're from. Do they really even know? They deny knowing anything about it. What if these things are from China? Are they doing anything to stop them? We don't know. Nobody knows. What else? I have some questions here that should be asked that should be asked and are not being asked and are not being answered. Our first question would be, what is the oh, that's not that. No, I have questions here. What are the consequences of taking action with these drones? They're flying all over New Jersey. What if somebody were to take a shot at them? What would be the consequences? How does the government know these drones are not of human origin? They're not answering that. It's a good question. How does the government know? Are these UAPs? I don't know. The government doesn't know. And if they do know, they're not answering. How does the government know the intent of these craft? If they don't know who they're coming from, if they deny knowing anything about them, how do we know what the intent is? Are these things capable of carrying weapons-grade material? Are these things capable of weapons of mass destruction? They're flying over restricted areas. There's weapons manufacturing areas. They're flying over the areas close to where President Trump is going to be living, his golf course over there, and they don't know anything about it. Why has the government declined to take action against these craft? I mean, we're putting millions and millions and billions of dollars into the Pentagon, into our military, and they don't know the intent. They don't know why the government has declined to take action. They don't know why nobody has taken action. Millions and billions of dollars. How are they going to protect us from, let's say, if Putin gets really mad and he talked about taking action against people involved in missiles coming out of Ukraine? How do we know that our government can protect us from Putin's response if he decides to launch one on, let's say, drop one on Miami, if they can't even keep us safe from drones in New Jersey? Are we secure? Are we really secure? It doesn't sound like it to me. Why has the government denied to take action? Well, here's another one. Have those craft affected other nations? And the answer is yes. These craft have been seen in other nations. They've been seen, there have been drone attacks around government bases in the UK, government bases in France. They've been around the world. They've been seen around the world. What should the public do if they engage one of these craft? There has been reports of these craft hovering over private vehicles and affecting the electronics of the vehicle, the clocks of the vehicles. What should we do? And the government is not telling us what we should do. Do these craft emit radiation? We don't know. Nobody knows. They're not answering the questions. These are just questions they should be asking. What should first responders' reactions be if they hit one of if they experience one of these craft either landing or crashing? What should our first responders know in regards to dealing with these craft? They're flying with impunity over the United States airspace. They're not saying. Why is there no federal preparedness, guidance, or direction from municipalities nationwide? Only reactive, isolated responses. So these are the things that are going on. I'm using this. I usually do the electronic deck, but I am going to use this one for today because we can see the cards, and I'm going to ask some yes or no questions. What is a good yes or no question? If I see a response here, I will ask it. I think a good yes or no question is: are these of United States origin? Are these craft, yes or no? Are these craft of United States? They could be, these craft could be from some three-lettered agency in the United States. Are these craft from some three-lettered agency in the United States that they're not telling us about? Which would be preferable. If they were from some agency in the United States, they could tell us that. These are from these are from the CIA, where we're testing something. These are being tested by you, but they're not telling us that, this is the government, we're testing these capabilities. They're not telling us anything about this. So, are these craft part of are these from the USA? Are these from our country? My ability to read tarot is a gift. It's expression of divine love, and I'll tell you about that someday. So when I do a 6-card reading, wands and cups are yes, pentacles and swords are no. I deal 6 cards. Are these craft from the United States, part of our government? Are these craft from the United States, part of our governmental response? I'll cut the deck. First card is a cup. Is a 4 of cups. That's a yes. I deal 6 cards. Second card is a 5 of swords. So that would be a no. And then major arcana we throw out. Fourth card is a 5 of wands. Now that's a yes. If I have 2 yeses, and these are from some 3-letter agency within the United States. Fourth card is a no. Ace of Swords. Fifth card is Ace of Pentacles. That's a no. Oh, I think we're even up. Well, let's see. And then the last card is the Hierophant. So I have I have 3 yeses. I have 3 no's and 2 yeses. That's Ace of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, and 5 of Swords. These are not of United States origin. So says the tarot. So I'm running on a half an hour. Where do these drones come from? I will do a more in-depth research on this. Maybe our new administration coming in can get us an answer to this. Certainly the administration we have here currently is not giving an answer to this. The tarot it tells me that these are not from inside the United States. These are not from one of our 3-letter agencies. So who's flying these things? Next week, I'll take a look at it and we'll get some more detailed answers. What do you say? So tune in next week, and that's what we're going to do. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Oh, let me try that again.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it's my pleasure. It's been my pleasure to be here. And remember,
Professor Marvel never guesses, he knows.
So until next week, be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, find faith, have courage, and I'll talk to you guys all next week. If for some reason you need a reading, I could be contacted at johnstarot.net. I have a little website out there that's very amateurish. I'm a work in progress. If you need a free reading, contact me there. If you need something more detailed, we'll work something out. And I will see you all next week. So have a good week, and bye-bye.